Time now to talk to the Tories. The Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, Helen Whately, is with me now. Very good morning to you. First of all, let's talk about digital ID, which the government is announcing today. You've been so critical of Labour not being serious about tackling illegal migration. Now they've got a serious policy, but the Tories don't seem to be supporting it. Why not?
This still isn't a serious policy to tackle immigration. This is just a gimmick, a smokescreen from Keir Starmer to try and distract from all his failures. From his failure to stop the boats and control immigration, for his failure on the economy, and that's a disaster, from all the scandals he's been having with Angela Rayner and Peter Mandelson, question about his own donations from Labour Together and Andy Burnham now contesting him for the leadership of the Labour Party. He's just trying to distract from all of that, and this is not a serious policy to stop immigration.
Why is it not a serious policy when it would mean that people who wanted to work needed to show that they had the legal status to allow them to work, and that would surely have an impact on illegal working and put people off crossing the channel thinking that they could work illegally?
Well, at the moment, to work legally, you have to show ID and your employer has to check your ID. This is just a different form of ID.
The government would say that those documents more easily falsified. This would be a better system for proving who you are.
That is simply not the problem that I hear with what's going on with illegal working, because we're hearing about people working in the grey economy, being paid in cash, being often paid well below the minimum wage. This is not about law-abiding employees and failing to be able to identify whether people's ID is legal or not. They're not even checking ID. This is simply not going to solve the problem of stopping the boats. As I said, it's just a distraction from Keir Starmer because he doesn't have answers to that and his leadership's under threat.
The French have long argued that our lack of an ID card or system makes us a soft touch, and they say that it's part of the pull factor that encourages more migrants to cross the channel. Are you not persuaded by their experience?
No, the pull factor is that people then come here and at the moment think they'll get to stay in a hotel and then be here for ages. And yes, but we were putting in place a policy that was going to act as a deterrent. So if people came here illegally, they knew that they would be taken to another country, a third country, and their asylum claims would be processed there and they would not get an opportunity to come and live in the UK. That's a sort of deterrent you need, not to make everybody start having a digital ID and be able to be stopped and show their ID. We don't want that kind of culture just because Keir Starmer has failed to stop the boats.
The government has said that you would have to show your digital ID when applying for a job, but other than that, it would not be needed to be used.
Well, they've said that, but also Lisa and Andy's been out on the airwaves this morning saying everybody would need to have a digital ID. So no, the policy might start off with just being to do with if you're applying for a job, but it looks like it actually will become a policy where everyone is required to have one, and that's something which we don't support.
Can you see some of the advantages, though, of having access to public services, perhaps further down the line, all on an app? You don't have to scramble around for old utility bills to prove who you are. It's a way of drawing together some of that information in a more efficient way, and one that we're getting increasingly used to with the NHS app. We've got contactless payments. We give out a lot of our information already.
Of course I understand the appeal, and I use all these things myself, whether it's the NHS app or the gateway for doing your tax return or whatever it is, and having different logins is annoying. And I've nothing against the government looking at ways that you make it easier for people to log into these different systems, making things simpler for people. But that's a different thing from mandating people to have a digital ID.
For work, as they say.
Yeah. Well, yes, but as I say, one thing leads to another, and already the Minister on the airways has been hinting at exactly that.
Let's talk about today's polling. This is the latest YouGov MRP poll, which looks at a seat-by-seat projection if there was an election tomorrow. Clearly there isn't. However, the result is looking pretty uncomfortable for the Tories, to say the least. It suggests an implosion for the party, according to this poll. It suggests that Tories would come in fourth place after the Liberal Democrats. What do you make of that?
I take this seriously. I spend a lot of time talking to people on the doorsteps, out in the street, out in my constituency, all around the country. And something I hear again and again is people are incredibly angry with the government. They're despairing at Keir Starmer. They're despairing at the way he's running the country, at the economy, and his failure to control immigration. And in response to that anger, they're also angry with us, who were angry with us at the last election, with the way things had been and with what the pandemic did to our country and our economy. We understand that. And they're disappointed that then they voted for Keir Starmer. They thought it was going to be better, and it wasn't. Instead, it's worse. So where are they going? Yes, at the moment, many people are saying, well, they'd back Farage, they'd back reform. But actually, and I genuinely have these conversations with people, they say, well, he's good at getting the headlines, but he doesn't have the answers. Every policy announcement he's come up with so far has fallen apart within hours. So he's not doing the hard yards on the answers. He is capturing the headlines. So we know as Conservatives that we have to do that hard work on the policies. People know that these problems are difficult to solve, like immigration. Otherwise, it would have been solved already. But they want parties that will come up with proper answers to that problem. And that we know is our job as Conservatives to do to offer people a better alternative at the next election.
As I say, the polling seat by seat, this polling suggests that you would lose your seat. How would you feel about that?
Well, actually, one of the things that people said to me, literally on the doorstep in my constituency, we have a by-election going on at the moment, is, Helen, please hang in there. We want the option of having a Conservative government at the next election, particularly because we trust you on the economy in ways that we don't trust any other party. Clearly don't trust Labour on the economy. Also don't trust Reform on the economy. People know that their plans are fantasy economics. In the area that I look at on work and pensions, Reform has plans to increase the amount of money that's spent on benefits. That's not what people want. They want to get things like the benefits bill under control. They know as a country we need to live within our means. They know we need to support growth, we need to support businesses, and that is the future. And they know that the Conservatives understand the economy, and that's what we need to set out for people.
Well, you accept that you have to build from where you are. Does that need to happen under a new leader? I mean, does this poll suggest that you're facing something of an existential crisis unless you make a big step like that?
I disagree on that. I think Kemi is a very strong leader and is thoughtful and excellent judgment and integrity. But we all know it's going to be a hard time for us for at least a year now, a bit more than that from the last election. But it's still in people's minds. It's not that long ago. They still want to hear us acknowledge the things that we got wrong. I mean, I try and defend our record. There's good things that we did in government. We did a lot of good to the economy when we took over from Labour, but people still feel the impact of the pandemic on our economy and want us to recognise how angry they were with that, how angry they are about some of the things that happened under Boris. We recognise that. Kemi, under new leadership, is taking the party forwards and restoring our principles, and so people know what we stand for, and that's what people want to hear from us.
Very briefly, you're pledging today that the Tories would reintroduce the two-child benefit caps should Labour ditch it. Why is that your priority in the Conservative Party, given that there's growing evidence that its removal links to reductions in child poverty?
So one of the things we know is that the country has to live within its means. We're the only party that's saying this. As I say, Labour's showing that they can't get the benefits bill under control, and both the deputy leadership candidates are saying that they want to lift the cap and increase the spending on benefits. Reform as well. The fact is the benefits bill is going to go up to over 200 billion by the end of this decade. It's not something we can afford. Also, it's not something that's fair. This policy, lifting that benefits cap, is not fair to people who are working hard and who can't necessarily afford to have extra children to spend more money from taxes on other people's benefits.
OK, we must leave it there. Helen Whately, we're out of time, but thanks very much indeed for joining us this morning. Thank you.